Afroman is in an absolutely hilarious case with the Adams County Sheriff's Department in what is a battle between First Amendment protections and what is defamatory. We're going to get that today on The Legal Mindset, where we teach you to be your own judge. Of course, I am Andrew Esquire, American attorney, and this is a Fast Facts video, the quick and dirty version of the latest in legal news. So for those of you that may not know, the defendant in this case is, of course, one Afroman, Joseph Edgar Foreman, of the famous hit back in the day of Because I Got High. Well, in this case, he is now getting in it with the Adams County Sheriff over a botched raid on his house. And to introduce them, they are the plaintiffs here in the parody depiction, as Afroman shows you in his video, which we're going to watch a little bit of later in this segment. And these sheriffs are mad based on these depictions that he has made of them. Some of them, such as Officer Poundcake over here, and other ones a hunchback. They've got all sorts of different depictions, some of them a little bit worse than others, and that's why they ended up in court with him today. Now, rapper Afroman has a house in the Adams County, and this house was raided based on a tip of narcotics and kidnapping. They had some informant that said, hey, there's narcotics, there's kidnapping victims, and the kidnapping was based on a quote-unquote dungeon basement that he had, allegedly. And so they went in and got this warrant from a judge and went into his place while he was not there. He was in Chicago at the time. Now his wife was present, and he did have security cameras. So there's footage from those security cameras, which he uses later in parody videos. And that's really the subject of this today. But when they went in there during that search, not only did they find nothing, there were no kidnapping victims, there was no narcotics, there was no, tons and tons of drugs, of anything, marijuana, cocaine, whatever, none of that stuff. But they smashed up his front door, his front gate. They searched his entire house. They took cash, and there's a big dispute about the amount of cash they took because, according to Afroman, $400 is missing. They said they gave him back. It was about $5,400 according to Afroman, $5,000 according to them. According to their internal investigation, they did not misplace any cash. But once again, this is a situation, if you know the police situation with cash is very easily palmed or easily taken, and oftentimes there are huge corruption issues when it comes to cash. This can come up in, for example, drug cases where people are dealing with a lot of cash and just the cash disappears, or the cash goes to fund the county, etc., or just slides off. But that cash is a big subject of debate here because Afroman, in his position, thinks they stole that money. So there was no actual findings at all. It was totally bunk. So Afroman, being incensed about this, being mad about this, took the surveillance footage of the raid and made parody videos mocking the police. Now, these parody videos, the officers did not like them at all. So if you go to his channel, you can see these over here, and he has almost 1 million subscribers here, probably getting a lot more recently. But all of these videos here, a lot of them go through individual officers, like Officer Randy Walters, Brian Newland, Sean, Lisa, all through this. Officer Poundcake, because the guy looked at he was kind of a little bit more of a husky individual, and he was looking at that cake like he was real hungry. He goes through a lot of these different videos and mocks them individually. But what we're going to review today is one video where he reviews the raid kind of footage as a whole, and it goes over several of the officers, and it kind of explains, when you see this video in the portion I'm going to show you, why they are suing. So we're going to go break that down step by step here right now. So here is the video. It's titled "The Batter Ram Hymn of the Police Whistleblower" by Afroman. And of course, you can check this out on his channel. Like you see, I'll put that link in the description. But we're going to go and break this down, and I'll show you the points at which I think the defamation is there and the clear parody. Of course, I think the depictions here, probably parody. The only ones that might be a little bit more troublesome are when you see, hey, there's a prison uniform. So, okay, is this guy in a prison? And this individual over here, I think we're pretty clear about what this accusation is right here, which if you make that sort of accusation, you better be pretty on point. Let's continue. Very catchy, by the way. And a point matter, I do like his suit.
Mine eyes seen the corruption of the ad.
So starting off here, showing them what he alleges as stealing cash. So one of the big things is calling them thieves. Calling someone a thief is potentially defamatory. Now, under his opinion, that cash was counted wrong. Their internal investigation may have said that was clear, but that's a big subject for debate and one of the subjects of the case.
Some county cops stealing money, stealing cake. When they make they traffic stops, first they screw you.
I don't know whether the officer actually took the cake, but he looked like he wanted to take the cake. And they did at one point unplug the security cameras. So it's very possible he did take a slice of the delicious lemon pound cake at subject here.
Afroman is gonna screw ya. My proof's on the internet.
He did let all the footage out on the internet. So all that's out there, and all of that is permissible because that's his home surveillance footage. Police have no reasonable expectation of privacy in that footage whatsoever.
Mine eyes have seen informants get busted with felonies.
So he better be pretty sure about that, but seeing that he pulled this up right here and showing her booking, it assumes he's telling the truth about that. So if that's true, if this informant actually was booked for a felony, that's not defamation, right? That's straight up just the truth.
Tell the cops I'm a kidnapper and I sell a lot of keys. Raid my house and then get pissed, 'cause the dungeon don't exist. My proof's on the internet.
Of course, he's referencing the basement dungeon where he allegedly had kidnapping victims, which didn't exist.
My gate don't operate and my door is on the floor.
So there you go. So that's legitimate. That's a very legitimate grievance. If they knocked down his door, they battering rammed his door, they broke his gate, that's a legitimate grievance. He's owed compensation for that by the police.
My camera's disconnected. Lisa Phillips is up.
Okay, so now let's put it here. One of the female officers is suing for her depiction, the sexual depiction of her and that depiction. So that one is one that's more amorphous. That's one that, especially if you look at it in the context of rap music, in the context of artistic speech, that's something very, very common. So it's dicey. That's a very dicey claim, but that's one thing the female officer is suing for.
They vandalized my property. My money came up short.
Legitimate from his perspective, that's vandalization of property. That's a legitimate claim, right? So calling them, saying that, hey, they vandalized, that's a crime, right? Vandalization. But that's also his perspective, looking at what they did to his property. So that one, I think that's going to fly because you've got that right there. You've got, hey, this door went down, the gate's broken. There you go. He thinks the money's up short, right? Their internal investigation doesn't. He does. That's a matter of debate.
They're the predators and the victims, and they're suing me in court.
Close word there, very close with defamation. You got to be careful with predator because that can be very dicey. But probably, and you can say he meant that in the context of they're preying on people.
Brian Newland is a flag.
Now we're getting into more spicier accusations, right? And this guy is in the current court case, which is going on right now, is one of the ones that testified as to defamation.
William is a pet.
There's the bomb. There's the bomb. So you show the guy in the prison orange. So what I would assume is you've got some information on this. But that is one that you drop, the hard P. You drop that accusation, you better be able to back that up, right? Or have some reasonable basis for backing that up. But I would assume based on showing that jumpsuit and in other videos, which I've watched, he's got people testifying as to these people's character, etc. So based on those things combined, but that's one we hear on the internet a whole lot. We hear it being dropped, and that is per se defamatory. But if you've got truthful statement, if you've got truth behind that, and you're able to back that up, then it might fly, right? But that's one of the reasons that he's probably in court as we speak.
If I'm telling folks the truth, how come I have to go to trial? Newland and kids, that's true. Now
that once again, that's pretty defamatory if it's not true. But he's saying, hey, it's true. The proof is out there. So the assumption is he's got something to back that up, and he's going to show that in court. So you guys now see the spiciest pieces of the accusations. You've got accusations of theft. You've got accusations of deviant behavior, criminal records. So that's why this thing is proceeding. So the case law is pretty clear, once again, that officers have no expectation of privacy when they're conducting raids. That is not something that they can expect to remain private. And the surveillance footage can be freely used. So when the officers sued, they sued for a whole basket of things: defamation, false light, invasion of privacy, right of publicity, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Now, as public officials, they have the duty to prove malice. So just like public figures, like internet figures or celebrities or people on the news, they're treated with the same higher standard of having to prove actual malice, which is very, very difficult. Now, because of that, and because of the case law, the judge dismissed outright the right of publicity and commercial use claims. So about half the claims were kind of knocked out, but they kept the defamation, false light, and some of the invasion of privacy claims and allowed those to proceed to trial. This is one where, once again, it's civil court and this is not criminal, so the standard is a bit lower. I think if you thought about this in a criminal sense with like beyond a reasonable doubt, then there'd be no chance at all, right? But on some of them where you have to kind of go into more of the facts, you have to go into more of the details. Okay, well, what information did you have to lead you to believe that this was true? You can see how this may have ended up in court. And the trial's going on right now in Adams County, so we're going to be following that as it develops. And it's an interesting balance of First Amendment right to criticize law enforcement against the officer's privacy and reputational interests. So from the officer's argument, the specific terms are arguably defamatory from their perspective. So they argue the words like thief, the hard P, we all know that one is the defamation per se. So that's one. Anywhere you drop that, you better be very, very sure before you drop that. Then calling someone a white supremacist. Now that one is more difficult to prove, and that's one that most case law is against. But the officers are saying that's a problem for them. I don't think they're going to get anywhere on that one. Criminals camouflaged by law enforcement. Now that one, calling them criminals, potentially it's up in the air. Now some of them might be criminals, right? And some of them might have a previous criminal record, which would make that indeed a truthful statement. They also said offensive comments about a female deputy's gender, sexual orientation, voice, and appearance are alleged. But once again, that's an area where you don't see a lot of claims. And if you put it in context, it's going to be very difficult. And they're arguing actual malice on all of these things. However, Afroman comes with a very strong defense. First Amendment, first and foremost, artistic and political speech. This is his artistic creation. And also opinion and hyperbole, particularly in the context of rap. And you have to go in the background of rap. He's a rapper. Now, you may argue that song you just heard was not rap. Okay, whatever. We're not getting into whether or not that's rap or whether that's just a parody song, whatever it is. But in the context of general music, people say a lot of hyperbolic things about other people. If you listen to rap music all the time, you know that, the morality of people's sexual behavior and their partner's sexual behavior is definitely something that comes up, particularly in rap music, particularly in America. So that is something that I think is a super strong defense. Also saying no actual malice because, number one, he's looking at surveillance footage and saying this is what they did, or this is my perception of what they did, and it's a reasonable perception. Hey, if his pound cake is missing, you can call him Officer Pound Cake because the pound cake's missing, right? Or the cash is missing. Hey, it's cash. You stole it, therefore you are a thief, right? That's a reasonable interpretation of that. The substantial truth and newsworthiness of this, because most of it is true, even if there may be details of it that are not exactly true. And then saying there's no real harm to them, meaning the only harm is from the raid footage getting out of what actually happened, and that doesn't look good for the officers. So saying the officers don't look good because they went in on a bunk search and they just behaved in an inappropriate way. And that's the real harm to them, is their government misbehavior. It's not actually the parody video, which is just basing it on that in a mocking way. So my judgment here is that the Afroman case is hilarious, but also important for the line when criticizing police. And it's a very, very important case because we want to be able to criticize our government in all aspects when it goes wrong. Criticism like this, parody videos, is a non-violent way to criticize, which we want to promote in America. We want to promote in free societies, non-violent ways to criticize the government, to publicly shame them. And really the only criminal claims that Afroman made against police, the accusations that are really criminal, like for example, dropping that hard P, those are probably the ones and the reasons why he's in court. If he didn't say those specific things that were a little bit more on the criminal side, he probably wouldn't be in court at all because it would be just something that was dismissed at a prior period in this trial. trial. However, I do strongly believe that bad actors should be publicly humiliated, and parody is an amazing way to do that when they cross the line, particularly for law enforcement. So I'm going to be watching this case and how it develops, and I will let you guys know as it plays out. Let me know what you guys think about the Afroman case and parody in general. And do not forget, we also have a giveaway for the Cabbage plushie. So if you want to get one of those, you can check out the description below, and that will be pinned in there. Until next time, see ya.